Now, Faiza Patel is a legal expert and co-director of the Liberty and National Security Program at New York's University of Brennan Center for Justice. She joins us live on Skype now from East Hampton in New York. Thank you very much indeed, Faiza, for being Jazeera. So the head of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in 2016 said to Congress that not a single act of terrorism has been committed by a refugee. In your opinion, do you think this makes America safe?
Absolutely not. I think national security is just a fig leaf that's being put over an incredibly prejudicial and biased order. There's no national security rationale for keeping people out because of who they are. If we need to we do need to keep our country safe, and we should keep people out because of what they do, not because of their religion and not because of where they're born.
Was this proposal carefully considered? Or would you say that it was probably more about symbolic rhetoric?
Well, I think this is obviously fulfilling one of the promises that the president made during his campaign, which was to implement a Muslim ban. He quickly realized that calling it a Muslim ban would make it almost certainly unconstitutional, given the strong protections for religious freedom in this country. So he decided that he would revamp it and cast it as an immigration and national security order, where traditionally the president has greater powers and where it's a little more difficult to challenge these kinds of categories. But I will say that given the way that he has characterized this, both during the campaign and in fact today, when he made it very clear that this was a ban not on all Syrians, but on Syrians of a certain faith, that he has revived the Muslim character of this ban.
Why do you think that he's actually specifically pointed out that they're going to be giving Christians a priority?
I think he's pointed that out because he wants to make a point, right? He can't call it a Muslim ban anymore because he's been told that that would make it subject to challenge, very strong challenge. So instead, he's reframing it, but he wants to make clear what it's about at the same time. So that's why he's out there saying this. And actually, the order itself allows for religious minorities to be exempted from the restrictions and gives priority to religious minorities. And since it's directed at Muslim countries, then that's pretty clear that it's meant to allow non-Muslims into the country.
Now, previously, refugees from Syria were already going through this 21-step screening process that, as we said, takes up to 18 to 24 months. So how are they going to be screening people now?
Well, that's not 100% clear. One of the things that the order does is that it requires the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, to come up with a new vetting procedure. And that vetting procedure may include new elements. And I think what it's really trying to get at is this idea of judging people's values and judging values that are not really relevant to, whether or not you get a tourist visa to come to New York. They're relevant to certain misconceptions or assumptions that he makes about Muslims. It was reflected also in his statement, He said he wants to have people who have great love for this country. Well, how do you measure that in a vetting process, right? It's a very impractical thing to try and get at. So it is really getting to like a values and almost an ideological test, which will, I think, greatly reduce both visits and migration from Muslim countries.
And Faiza, just very broadly speaking, what do you think this will really say about the role of America and the way it positions itself when it comes to humanitarian values in the international community now?
Well, this is a total kick in the face to the United States' traditional humanitarian values. And it's what's particularly ironic that he signs this order on Holocaust Memorial Day, which commemorates what happened in one of the most terrible incidents in our world's history, when refugees were rejected from the United States, Jewish refugees, during World War II. And today we turn our backs on Syrian refugees who are also facing carnage and murder in their homeland. It's really a terrible day for the United States.
Okay, Faiza Patel, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, earlier